Good morning, dear students. Today we can study virus structure and replication. Virus, they are submicroscopic organisms with the size ranges from 20 to 1000 nanometer. They are intracellular obligate pathogens that are capable of division only within a host cell. Once they are outside the host cell, they remain as inactive or inert, and they are considered as living only when they infect a host cell. Once they get into a host cell, they use the host machinery for their metabolic activities and reproduction. And since their size is very small, they carry only those genes that are not present in the host genome. Can infect both prokaryote as well as eukaryotic organisms. Differences between viruses and prokaryotes. Prokaryotes, as you know, they are organisms which does not possess a true nucleus, and example is bacteria. So viruses, they do not have a defined plasma membrane, but we know that bacteria, they possess a plasma membrane which is capable of doing most of the cellular functions that is being performed by higher organisms like oxidative phosphorylation leading to the ATP generation, then photosynthesis, respiration, like that. And so virus, they do not have that plasma membrane, and virus, they are incapable of replication by binary fission, and bacteria, they are capable of replication by means of binary fission. And in bacteria, they possess a circular DNA, it is called a nucleoid. But in virus, they possess either DNA or RNA, never both of the genetic material is present in virus. But in case of bacteria, even though they are having a circular DNA, they are capable of producing RNA from that DNA by means of transcription. And this virus, they do not carry gene for protein synthesis, nucleic acid synthesis, etc. So all these genes, they depend upon the host cell. But bacteria possess all those protein synthetic apparatus, and they can carry out protein synthesis as well as nucleotide synthesis. Then the virus do not have any biochemical mechanisms to produce ATP, but bacteria, they can produce ATP within the plasma membrane, and virus do not possess ribosome. That we know that bacteria possess the only cell organelle ribosomes, and they are viruses, they are insensitive to antibiotics. They are resistant to antibiotics, whereas bacteria, especially gram positive bacteria, they are sensitive to antibiotics. So antibiotics can be used in order to kill bacteria, but we can't use antibiotics to resist virus. But virus, they are sensitive to interferons, but bacteria, they are insensitive to interferons. So these are some of the major differences between the viruses and prokaryotes. Next is structural features of virus. As we know, virus, they are very small and they have a compact structure composed of only 3 components: the genetic material, capsid, and some virus, they possess an additional structural component called envelope. So the diagram that I have given in this slide is of a common enveloped virus, and this enveloped virus, the structure that is been emerging from that enveloped virus is called a spike, and inside that you can see the genetic material DNA, and outside that genetic material, it is been covered by capsid. Okay. Then the structural features, first one, genetic material. Genetic material in virus, they may be either DNA or RNA. That means never RNA and DNA combinedly occurs in virus. Only one type of genetic material will be present in a virus. Either it is DNA or it is RNA. And the DNA or RNA, it may be either positive sense or negative sense, and they may be single stranded or double stranded, and they have a linear fashion, or they have a circular outline. And sometimes only one copy of genetic material is present, and in some virus, it may have more than one or up to 2 molecules of genetic material will be present within a single capsid. Then introns, the non-coding sequence, which is common in eukaryotic genome, it is completely absent in the viral genome. And this genetic material, it is enclosed within a protein matrix, which is also been surrounded by the capsid. So these are the peculiarities of the genetic material that is present in virus. So we have to think that virus only possesses either RNA or DNA, and it may be either double stranded, single stranded, linear, or circular, and it may be positive sense or negative sense, and also introns absent, and it is been surrounded by a protein matrix. Next is capsid. The virus protein coat is called a capsid. The protein coat, it helps to protect the genetic material, and as the name suggests, the protein coat is made up of protein. So it helps to give a characteristic shape to the virus, and it is made up of individual subunits called capsomeres, and each capsomere in turn is made up of protein subunits, and the arrangement of the proteins in the capsomere and the arrangement of capsomeres to form capsid, it remains a characteristic feature of a particular type of virus, and it is used as an identifying feature for identifying different strains of virus. So capsid, it is the protein covering of the genetic material present in virus, and it is made up of protein subunits called capsomeres. Capsomeres in turn are made up of protein multi-subunit complexes, and arrangement of capsomeres in the capsid and capsid around the virus, they are unique for different strains of virus. Arrangement of capsid. The capsid in a virus may be either polyhedral or many-sided. In some virus, they are even having a 20-sided capsid structure. It is called icosahedral arrangement. It is common in viruses like polyoma virus and picornavirus. And some virus, they are also having helical capsid. And the example is tobacco mosaic virus, and in some virus the capsid is having the structure of a hollow cylinder. Example is tubulovirus. And in complex virus the capsid is neither icosahedral nor helical. It is having much more complex structure, and some in complex virus they possess around the capsid some additional envelope called lipid bilayered envelope, and that is giving additional protection to this capsid and the genetic material inside. And such type of virus example are vaccinia virus, paramyxovirus causing mumps, and herpes virus. So the capsid, it is having of different arrangements in a protein. It is either having a polyhedral shape, or it is having a icosahedral arrangement, or it is having helical or cylindrical structure, and some virus is having an additional layer which is called envelope, and such type of virus are called a complex virus. Then viral envelopes. Capsid is again wrapped within a lipid bilayered structure. It is called envelope, and the virus that possess this envelope are called enveloped virus. Many viruses that infect humans, they are in enveloped virus. For example, HIV virus, human influenza virus, then herpes virus, rhabdovirus. These are all enveloped virus that they possess a additional lipid bilayered outer membrane. And this virus obtain this lipid bilayer when they are infecting the host cell. When they, after infecting the host cell, when they get released from the host cell by the process of budding, they will pinch off a lipid bilayer from the host membrane, so they get this envelope. And envelope usually contain glycoprotein complexes called spikes, which serve as attachment site for the receptors present in the host cell. So that is the most peculiarity of having this envelope. Envelope is giving additional protection and shape to the virus, but in addition to that, it is having certain glycoprotein structures that called as spikes, which is serving as attachment site for the receptors that is present in the host cell. Then advantages of enveloped virus. Enveloped virus As we said, this envelope are of host origin, so they have the advantage of shielding the virus from degradation by the host enzyme, because host enzyme could not recognize this envelope as a foreign material because it is of host origin itself, and thus it helps to escape from the immune attacks of the host, and also it helps in the smooth entry into the host cell because of the structural identity with the plasma membrane of the host cell. So these were some of the advantages that is been possessed by the enveloped virus because of the same structure that is with our plasma membrane. So our host mechanism could not identify it, our enzymes could not able to degrade it, and also it allows a smooth entry into the host cell. Then the disadvantages of the enveloped virus. Disadvantages is that since it is made up of the plasma lipid bilayer, the conditions in plasma membrane lipid bilayer, all the conditions that lead to the destruction of the plasma membrane will also affect this envelope, like presence of detergents, then heating, change in pH, desiccation, etc. In all these conditions, the envelope get degraded and it will affect the capsid and the genetic material inside. So here coronavirus, as we know, it is an enveloped virus. So if we are using detergents or sanitizers, what happens is that the lipid bilayer membrane envelope get destroyed and the entire virus get degenerated. So that was the disadvantage of the enveloped virus. Okay, then this is the structure of virus, and it is the structure of all these virus that I have given here. Most of these virus are enveloped virus, so it is having an additional envelope over their capsid, and the reddish material that is present at the central part is the genetic material of that virus. And this genetic material, it is been sometimes it is always enclosed, it is surrounded by a protein matrix, and in some viruses it is been associated with some enzymes like RNA reverse transcriptase in case of RNA virus, then integrase, protease, like so many enzymes that will be absent in the host genome will be present along with this genetic material, and then it is been enclosed within a protein matrix, and the whole thing is enclosed within a protein capsid. Then this capsid, it is been again enveloped by an envelope, and this envelope, it is having certain it is made up of phospholipid and lipid bilayer, and it is having spike glycoprotein spike projections which help in the attachment to the host cell. And the figure on the right side is of the coronavirus, and coronavirus it is having the spike through which it get attached to the host cell, and the genetic material here, it is RNA, then the envelope, then the lipid membrane, and the nucleocapsid. So what is called a nucleocapsid? Nucleocapsid is the nucleic acid, that is the RNA or DNA along with the capsid. So that is called a nucleocapsid. When we heard about nucleocapsid, we have to think of viral genetic material along with this protein coat. It is called a nucleocapsid. Okay, so this is the structure of virus. Then we have to go to the viral replication. Virus replication. As we know, virus replicate only inside a host cell, and virus replication involve the multiplication of virus inside the host cell to produce the progeny virus. So once they get infected into a host cell, they use the host cell machinery to produce their own components to form a complete virus. And the virus replication, it involves 5 different stages. First one is attachment, second one is penetration, third one is biosynthesis of viral component, and fourth is maturation, and the last stage is release. So virus, as we know, it is capable of infecting both prokaryote and eukaryote. So virus replication, it will take place in prokaryote and eukaryote, but in a different manner. So we can go through each step. First step is attachment of virus to the host cell. So as we said, virus, they are highly host specific. That means virus can infect only a particular type of cell. So each virus, they are highly specific that they can infect only a particular type of host cell. For example, hepatitis virus, it can infect only liver cell. Like that, the AIDS virus, it can infect only the CD4 T cells of our immune system. So virus, they have proteins in their envelope or in their capsid to recognize the host cell, and the plasma membrane of the host cell, they are possessing special receptors in order to get attached with the proteins that is present in the viral either envelope or on the capsid. So it is a host specific recognition mechanism that is taking place when the virus get binded to the receptors present in the host cell. So the attachment mainly check for the host specificity between the virus and the host cell. Only specific virus can enter into specific cell. All virus could not able to enter into all cells in our body. So their infection is highly specific. So it is been ensured in the first step, that is attachment to the host cell. Next step is penetration of the host plasma membrane. Once the virus get attached into the attached into the receptors in the host plasma membrane, then it will penetrate into the host plasma membrane. First, for that it will form a structure called invagination, and the plasma membrane at that region where it get attached to the receptors get invaginated to form a cup-shaped structure into which the virus get incorporated, and by the process of endocytosis, the virus get internalized into the host cytoplasm, and inside the host cytoplasm it get enclosed into endosomic vesicles, and the host lysosomal enzymes will act on the virus. It will degenerate or degrade all the viral components like envelope and capsid, and only the viral genetic material get released into the cytoplasm of the host cell. And in case of some enveloped virus, the envelope will fuse with the plasma membrane of the host cell and directly release the genetic material into the cytoplasm. So that is all about the penetration. So in penetration, we have to remember invagination, that is formed by the cup-shaped structure formed at the attachment site of the virus with the plasma membrane of the host cell, and by endocytosis the virus get internalized into the host cytoplasm and then it form endosomic vesicles, and then it release the viral genetic material into the cytoplasm. And in case of enveloped virus, the envelope sometimes get combined with the plasma membrane of the host cell, and only the genetic material is released into the cytoplasm. Next step is biosynthesis of viral components. So it takes place in two stages. First one is integration of the viral genetic material into the host genome, and next step is transcription and translation of the viral component. Integration of viral genetic material into the host genome, and transcription and translation of viral components. So these are the two steps that are involved in the biosynthesis of viral components. So we will go one by one. So first step is integration of viral genetic material into the host genome. So in case of all DNA virus, it will directly integrate its genome into the host genome. So in case of DNA virus, what happens is that DNA virus, they are capable of integrating their genome into our genome. Our genome is also DNA. So what happens is that viral genome get integrated into our genome at specific locations, and they will remain integrated as provirus. Okay, the virus that it get integrated into the host genome is called provirus. But in case of RNA virus, it cannot directly integrate into our genome because our genome is DNA, and RNA cannot get integrated into DNA. So what happens is that this RNA virus, first they will produce a complementary DNA, that is called cDNA, and for that they are having an enzyme called reverse transcriptase enzyme, and by a process of reverse transcription, their RNA get converted into complementary DNA, and the viruses that are capable of reverse transcribing RNA to DNA, they are called retroviruses. Retrovirus, an example is AIDS virus. Okay, so this complementary DNA, it is now capable of integrating into our host genome, And when that virus get integrated into a host genome, it is also known as provirus. So the integration of this viral genetic material into host genome is called the integrated form of the viral genome into the host genome is called provirus. So in case of DNA virus, it get directly integrated into the host virus as provirus, but in case of RNA virus, first it has to be transcribed into, reverse transcribed into complementary DNA, and then it has to be incorporated into the host genome as provirus. So the enzyme responsible for that process is reverse transcriptase, and the viruses are called retrovirus or reverse transcribing virus. Example is AIDS virus. Next step is transcription and translation of viral components. So we are dealing with the biosynthesis of the viral components. So first of all, they get integrated into the host genome, and second, they have to direct our host machinery to synthesize their own compounds. So they are using our machinery like ribosomes, then our enzymes, then our protein transcription proteins, that's transcription factors, or to synthesize viral components like capsids, then enveloped proteins, then their genetic material, etc. So they use the host replication, transcription and translation machinery to synthesize viral components, and in this synthesizing process, the proteins are synthesized in a particular order in which they are needed by the virus. So those genes that are activated at the beginning of the biosynthetic phase, they are called early genes, and genes which are activated at the later stages of the biosynthetic process, it is called late genes. And here what happens is that in case of virus, as we know, the their genetic material is very compact. It contains only few type of genes which is absent in the host genome. So these genes, they won't get activated together. Only certain genes that are needed at the initial stages of the biosynthetic phase get activated at the earlier, and these type of genes are called early genes. So the proteins that are needed at the initial stage of viral replication will be synthesized first, and they are called early genes, and those genes which are those proteins which are needed only at the later stages of the viral replication and viral assemblage, it will be synthesized later, and such type of genes are called late genes. So the newly produced viral protein and enzymes, they coordinate the host protein to synthesize other components and genetic material that are needed for the virus. So by the process of transcription, translation and replication, virus synthesize their genetic material, their proteins and all the enzymes that are needed for their assemblage. So that is about the transcription and translation of viral components. Next is replication in positive sense RNA virus. In positive sense RNA virus, the replication is somewhat different, because the positive sense RNA virus, they will never integrate into the host DNA. They will remain in the cytoplasm of the host DNA without entering into the nucleus. So this viral positive sense RNA, it will act as an mRNA, and it will direct the host machinery like ribosomes and enzymes for the synthesis of the viral proteins. After synthesizing the viral proteins, this positive sense RNA, it with the help of the enzyme RNA dependent RNA polymerase, it produces negative sense RNA copy. Okay, from the positive sense RNA, it will produce the negative sense RNA, and this negative sense RNA, they act as a template for the production of positive sense RNA. So with the help of the at first it will produce negative sense RNA that act as a template for the production of the positive sense RNA. So this type of replication takes place in the case of positive sense RNA viruses like hepatitis C virus and coronavirus. So what happens here is that this positive sense RNA virus, it will remain in the cytoplasm itself and act as an mRNA, and it will synthesize all the proteins needed for the virus, and then it will help in the production of negative sense RNA genome with the help of the enzyme RNA dependent RNA polymerase, and that negative sense RNA, it acts as a template for the production of the positive sense RNA copies, and that positive sense RNA copies along with that proteins like capsid proteins and other proteins get assembled to form the complete RNA virus. So such type of replication is taking place in hepatitis C virus and coronavirus. Next step is maturation of viral components. So when the synthesis of the viral components are completed, a specific signal called packing signal is being released by the viral components, and it will facilitate the assembly of the viral components into a complete virus. So this assemblage also takes place in a specific order. That means the genetic material get first arranged and it is being surrounded by the protein matrix, then it is being surrounded by the capsid, and finally in case of enveloped virus the envelope get arranged around all these structures. So this is all about the maturation of viral components. So in during the maturation of viral components, a packing signal is being released, and that signals allow the viral components to get arranged in a specific manner, starting from the genetic material, protein matrix, then the the capsid, and finally envelope. Okay, then the last step, that is the release of the virus. Here in release of the virus, the progeny virus get released from the host genome either by a process called in animal cell it is being released mostly by a process called budding or by exocytosis. Virus get internalized into the host genome by the process called endocytosis, and it get released from the host cell by a process called exocytosis. So the progeny virus, they get released from the cell by budding, and in case of enveloped virus they will pinch off the plasma membrane of the host cell before they leave the cell by budding. So that's all about the release of virus. That is the final stage of viral replication inside the host cell. This is the diagram that represents the replication of virus in eukaryote, and the first one shows about the attachment and the penetration of the virus into the host cell. So the first virus get attached into the host cell at specific receptors, and that part get invaginated, and then it get internalized, and in second figure the virus form an endosomic vesicles inside the host cell, and this endosomic vesicles inside that the virus get degraded and its genetic material is being released into the nucleus of the host cell. It get incorporated in the nucleus as provirus, and from there it direct the host genome to synthesize the components that is necessary for viral proteins and capsid formation, and also it will produce multiple copies of the viral genome. And in the final stage the assembly signal, the packing signal is being released, which will cause the assemblage and packing of viral progeny virus, and finally it gets released from the host cell by a process called budding. So this is the replication of virus inside a eukaryotic cell. This is the replication of coronavirus, and I have just placed it because of the relevance in present scenario. And as we know, coronavirus, I have already mentioned that it is a positive sense RNA virus, so replication is quite different here. So you can see the attachment receptors of this coronavirus on the plasma membrane of the host genome, and the coronavirus get attached into the receptors, and at the attachment site it form a cup shaped invagination, and then it get internalized by endocytosis, and that RNA, it act as a mRNA, and it direct the synthesis of proteins that are necessary for the virus. And here so many proteins it will be producing, like the membrane protein, then the spike protein, and the envelope proteins, nucleocapsid, all these things are being produced, and this mRNA then this positive sense RNA, then with the help of reverse RDRP enzyme, it will act, cause the formation of negative sense RNA, and that negative sense RNA, it act as a template for the synthesis of multiple copies of this positive sense RNA, and then the packing signal is being released, and it cause the arrangement of all the proteins and genetic material in specific manner, so that the final progeny virus get packed up inside the host cell, and it will get released from the host cell by the process of exocytosis. So this is about the replication of the coronavirus. I think all of you understand what I have said. So thank you.